I am going to try an M2 on the outside just to show you why you shouldn't do that ever. Me, it's parked. So I'm at Hollis North today, and I have a tournament coming up. So today we're doing a round where if you ever thought, how do I hit this line? Or how the hell's that supposed to work? Or what? Then this video is for you, because I'm going to go through every hole and figure out the perfect line. And hopefully that'll help me in my tournament. Hole 1 here is theoretically very easy. There's only one real line from the short pad, and that's to go out to the left with a forehand, come back into the right towards the basket. A backhand option exists with something flippy, but I often find that backhands tend to either go long or too straight and kick off to the left side. So we're going to try forehanding this gap, fade to the right. And that's perfect. There are two options for hole 2. You could forehand something. I like the Area 51 or zone, or backhand something. I like a PX3, or I guess a Berg if you like throwing Bergs, or just any overstable putter. Backhand line, throw it high through this gap on the right and let it fade all the way back, something overstable to the basket, or forehand something either straight down this first gap or the way outside gap. I'll try both. I like the backhand line. Been having a lot of issues with trees on that side though. Maybe I switch to the forehand line. Didn't leave it out quite wide enough, but it got down there. Part of the issue with the backhand line is contending with this tree and that tree and all these trees. Your line is literally like right here. And if you don't hit that line, then it can be a little tricky. So that being said, I'm more comfortable with the backhand line when it works. But you hit a tree and you're left with kind of a long little upshot. But the forehand line, even if it goes badly, as long as you don't hit a tree, likely to be in a better position. So ideally, just throw what you're comfortable with and hope that it works out. The putting needs so much work. The basket on hole 3 is behind a bunch of trees. You need something overstable or something that's got a lot of hyzer on it. 192 feet, so I throw putters. I normally throw my PX3. I'm going to try a few different ones today. Intercore, Luna, Watt. The idea is to sneak it either on the inside of the skinny tree up here or on the outside of it and have it fade in. You just got to get in the grouping of the big trees right over here. Launched it a bit. Paul Ulibarri talked about a pinch grip, where you're like not quite gripping the entire rim, and it's more of like a putt grip. Let's see if that works. Ooh, that works pretty well. That was nice. That was really close. I think it was what, the inner core with that pinch grip. I think it hit the base of the tree right behind the basket. And I'm not gonna lie, I was a little excited that I came very, very close to it. Hard to see on camera, but putt. Basket's right there. Caveat to the round, I will be taking whatever the best drive is. So if you see one that's like, oh, you hit the first tree. That's not a par, that's a double bogey or whatever. It's fine. Hole 4, I like the backhand line. There is a forehand line. There's also a line up the gut, a line to the right. Let me explain. Backhand line through this tree and that tree. Backhand. It's weird, but it works great. Backhand line up the gut with something that's flippy. I don't like that line. Forehand up the gut with something overstable, or, well, maybe stable to overstable, like, you know, like a -1-2 or something. You could do that. I like the backhand line. We'll try a few different things, see what works out. A little bit wide. Worked out great. Do Mako, backhand up the gut flippy. See how that works out. I did not see where that finished, but it looked great. I'm gonna use a TL3 to go forehand up the gut. It's a little bit more stable than a -1-1. It's more like a -1-2 or sometimes a -1-3 if I'm throwing a forehand. So this might be pretty good. Contending with that tree is tough. Even if you hit this big tree right here, that's kind of a guardian to the long basket, it's not a bad position. Let's have an upshot. Oh my God. Backhand flippy up the gut. And let me clarify when I say flippy. The Mako 3 is not actually flippy. It's a 0-0. It's just a stable mid-range. But it will hold the angle that it's put on. And this, admittedly, probably got a little lucky to not go into the creek. Not that it's OB, but it is hard to putt from. This is like guaranteed birdie, I think. Yeah. Yeah, I wasn't even trying on that one, birdie. And the inner core, I left out a little wide, but it came back like the inner core does, being slightly overstable in this plastic. Give myself a long look for birdie. So, options, they exist. In my opinion, there's really only one way to play hole 6, and that is to rip a backhand turnover to the long basket. Backhand, a little bit of flex, goes right, fades left. I'm gonna use a construct, 10-6, -1-2. Maybe a little high, faded out. So I ended up getting really close to the short basket. I just needed it to turn a little bit more before it faded. Not a bad attempt on my part. Few different options of hole 6. I like a backhand line fighting through the right gap of the trees. So there's this like line of trees here and then here and then here, and then there's this gap in between the gnarly one that everyone seems to hit and then the next tree. There's a gap there. I try to hit that and then fade hard left back towards the basket that's at the end of this path coming all the way down into the left. That's the goal. Something flippy up the gut also works, or forehand over the OB is also an option. I'm less confident in either of those two things, so I normally play to the right, but we'll try all of them today. Well, this early release. Let me try this evader. Now, for flippy up the gut. Ooh, that is kicked. No, it's definitely not that. Ooh, that is one way to play it. Okay, insanity, up the gut, flippy, never in a million years. This normally works out really well. I just left it left. What else we got? The Mamba that almost worked and is very off to the right side. Maybe have kind of a look of a forehand over here, but oh. Stupidly worked out. Feedback, this is our first throw, and this just early released. So even, I mean, if you find yourself early releasing a lot, playing that wide right backhand, it's not a bad option, because even if you mess it up, still not in a bad spot. And then we have the forehand up the gut, which I honestly didn't expect to work out as well as it did. So this is like, you know, a layup for a par at worst. Oh my God, that's perfect. Sit. Par. Or I guess if I had to take a bad shot, I mean, this was just a silly joke, but this is like 10 feet for par. As soon as I set up for hole 7, I totally forgot about the invader. It was like 42 feet to the right of the pin. So pretty good for not being perfect. Hole 7 used to be a forehand overstable throw for me. I think that's stupid now. I started throwing a Mako 3. That worked out pretty well for a while. And now I normally throw something like a Luna. That line is like an anti-flex backhand that just drifts right and fades back. The basket is tucked in past those trees at the end of the path. For shigs and gigs, I'm gonna throw the adder on a forehand. It's a 13.504. I have no right throwing this disc. And yet somehow it worked out. Make a 3-time backhand, the shot that I would normally take in a tournament. Little high, not quite enough turn, and a little bit to the left. Basically perfect. Okay, so we're coming up on the short position, and the adder is honestly not a bad option for the shorts. But I still think it's a higher percentage shot, and I don't really like it as much as the backhands, which Mako 3, pin high, so not long, just a little bit too left. I need something slightly more understable there. Mako 3 in star, it's more like a 0-1. And then the Luna is parked. That is it's just a birdie. It's basically a gimme. Nice. I've talked about hole 8 on the channel before multiple times. You play the small gap. You play this gap, this way. The basket's that way. If you want to play outside, you contend with so many trees that it's just, but this is good. I am going to try an M2 on the outside just to show you why you shouldn't do that ever. Me, it's parked. Now for the throw that I'll do all the time because it's the best throw, I think. I'm not sure anymore. I'm gonna throw a PX3 on the small gap. I didn't expect it to stay as straight as it did. Yeah, there we go. Better. Still a little low. The PX3 is really the one you want. Something overstable. I dare even say a Berg if you like them. I don't. Here's why. But I think I made up for it with some of my other throws. Yeah. So this PX3, I don't know what gap I went through up there, but I landed here. And even if that did happen, then like whatever. That's a par. It was fine, just a little low. Oh look, another par. Birdie. And the inner core is a little bit too straight flying, so ended up pretty long, but honestly I think that's just outside C1, so also not bad. Hole 9 is my nemesis hole, straight up. A lot of trees, very easy to hit this first tree right up here. You gotta sneak between these trees on a backhand, something pseudo flippy. I dare say even just straight up neutral. Or you can try to flip something up and have it come right down this gap. I have had issues making both of those work. I'm gonna try the right hand gap with the scorch. Well, seems like I crushed it, so that was good, so we don't have to redo that. I'm gonna try the left gap with a Mamba. It's on the edge, it's fine. I like the right hand gap better for placement, because trying to get something to flip and turn up is just... All right, one more chance. We'll use a crave, because this can get kind of flippy. Yeah, it's just too many trees to contend with. Mamba. Mamba is just off to the side, left side of the fairway. Some trees to contend with. Not the best in my opinion, but it's also not as flippy as the numbers say. Partially that's me not throwing it hard enough, and also no wind, low altitude, all that stuff. The scorch is in it. This is the position to be in. Even a little bit further would be great, but this is what the ideal is. Got super lucky. Meant to push that out beyond those trees, ended up threading them, but that's exactly what you want to do. This hole will play as a par 3, even though the sign is like 3/4, which I feel like most people look at that and think, oh, well, the short basket is 3 and the long basket's 4, but apparently that's not the case. Apparently those numbers are for short tee pad, long tee pad, i.e. the short is always 3, the long is always 4. The ideal throw at hole 10 is a backhand, maybe like slightly Anheuser with something that's a tiny bit overstable like the Construct. 10, 6, negative 1, 2. Go up a little tiny bit right. Fade around the trees at the end there to come back towards the basket. That's that way. If you want to go up in the left side, then you can throw something flippy on backhand or try to get a forehand up there. It's 282 feet, and uphill, and then downhill again. So for me, that forehand option isn't really an option. So I need a backhand. I like the right side. Up the gut also works. That's probably fine. Pin high, maybe. Maybe. There we go. Yep, that's perfect. That's exactly what you want to do. And if you're trying to go up the left side, forehand, and then we'll do something. Yeah, it's just... Here's that first one. Here's the first one that is like in a fine position. You know, it's a bit at birdie, but at worst, just lay up for par. And I play an MA3, so lay up for par is like, I might win if I do that. Here's the best and most upsetting thing I've ever seen. That was a good drive. So maybe it's the insanity. I wonder how close that was to an ace. Like, not that close, right? Because it landed at the foot of the basket, which means it didn't have the height. But it was on line. And the last disc that I definitely didn't forget about is the Mamba. This was a forehand that I just like, it just came out early. So pin high, if I had hit the right line, maybe, this is 11th speed. So it has the ability for the distance. The only thing that's lacking is me. Hole 11 has a couple different options, but also a very big hazard. No OB, but off to the right, big gully. Hard to shoot from if you hit a tree and kick right. The left side, a lot of foliage on the outside, a lot of trees down, hard to play from if you kick left. You have this kind of just up the gut gap, and if you throw something like a Luna, I've gotten down there, but it's luck based, and if you go too far, there's a big drop off right behind the basket. I like throwing something overstable with a forehand this way, curves right along the outside, because even if you lay up, then that's fine. Taking a 3 on this hole is fine. I know it says it's like 263 or whatever, but honestly, it's just, that big drop off is really concerning. So I'm gonna try up the gut first, and then I'll try a few forehand down that left gap. That's totally okay. Felt a little lucky, and I'm still gonna have to do probably a crazy little layup to get a par. I'm gonna throw a feedback. It's a 9.5 negative 1 3. That had a skip left that I didn't want. I wanted it to skip right, but that was the gap. Let me try it again. Again, anti-skip left. That was just for fun. That was a Mamba. Don't throw a Mamba. That went so long. Okay, we're coming up on the Luna. See, it's fine, but also it's just so precarious. You'll see once we get up there. I'm not even gonna throw it, because if it rolls, I don't want to have to chase it. So yeah, you come up, and little side break here. Lone Hal, pretty good. Feedback, actually pretty good. That's what I would normally throw. This is this looks like a birdie because it's like, oh, it's right there, you know. It's got to be about 20-ish feet. Well, maybe a little less, between 15 and 20. If I miss this, it's gone. So if I'm playing a tournament, I lay up every time on that one, because here's the deal. The grade on this hill is unforgiving. It's a good time to take your 3 and then just move on. Here's an example. The Mamba, which went very far, had a very good flight, even though I kind of missed my line. It's way the heck over here, and we gotta shoot way the heck up there. So birdie's out of the question. Ooh, I definitely don't want it to roll because I don't want to chase it, but also it would have illustrated a good point that if something's coming down on its side like that and it rolls, it's not stopping. It's going from there to there. Hole 12 has given me some trouble in the past, but there are options. Option 1, backhand something flippy that has late flip down the left side to flip this way and then land somewhere along the edge down that, like, next to that downed tree that's off in the distance. Or just forehand something down the left gap. Even if it doesn't go very far, it's probably great. The other option, I saw someone do this, just like some random guy that we let pass. If you're watching this, I hit this line like once, and it was the furthest drive I've ever had off this tee, so thank you. But it is low percentage. There's a line between this tree and this tree on a backhand this way. I'm gonna try to hit it, but it's not guaranteed at all. There is a line there, but it's real tight. And that's totally fine. I'm gonna try the Wraith on this backhand line and just see what happens. Ooh, that's the issue. The issue are the guardian trees at the end of that path. It's really tight. That looked really good for a long time though. Crave, flippy down the left side. See what happens. Huh. That was perfect. That was absolutely perfect. The Mamba was totally fine on the forehand, and honestly, I take this, 10 times out of 10. But that Crave, that sneaky little late flip up is just like, it's beautiful. You think it's a 6-speed and like, hey, what am I gonna do with a 6-speed on this? Hole's over 300 feet, right? Yeah, it's 347. What am I gonna do with a 6-speed? Flip it up, get a full flight. Land very close. Today is not about putting. Maybe it should be about upshots. Maybe that's just something I do in my free time, because all of these are fine. Like, I can make all of these, I think. But I shouldn't have to. From that distance, they should just be under the basket. They should just be parked. And hey, I'll work on it later. Here's another hole that can potentially be very tricky. Hole 13. A couple different things you can do here. Go up the gut and just hope for the best, because so many trees. Or hyzer flip something understable to come around, like hyzer flip it up this way to come around and then come back around this kind of walking path to the right, or throw something stable on anhyzer. I typically do this one, but I don't, maybe it's not the best. Maybe there's another thing to do. It was a little too straight. Let me try the Sapphire. It's a -2, 1.5, 2.5. The numbers are so faded I can't tell anymore. But this actually is more overstable than it should be. Ooh, got a little tree left. Wow, a lot of tree left. Didn't even slow it down that much. Wow, pretty good. Try the TL. I don't have a lot of flippy things in my bag. No, that's just dead straight. And maybe kind of gone. The construct is in this little moat. I don't actually know what to call it. But that's our first one that hit a tree. Well, there's the TL, way down there. Sapphire is probably the best drive. I'm still missing a few, but we can at least play this out. This is like a little long for a birdie, but could be doable. Ideally, if you hit the right line with something like a Sapphire, or just something overstable, then it will land somewhere in the vicinity of the basket. Nice. A couple options at hole 14. Backhand some sort of straight flying putter, or forehand something like a zone. That is fine. Now we're going to try an area 51 and an area 51, or a zone if you have a zone. Ooh, I did not see that tree. Yep, one of those will work. So I don't know what the area 51 hit on that side. Landed here. Long little up. Luna left it out left. The Watt was the first one I felt good about, and honestly, this is just like, you know, a little, maybe a little straddle putt for a look at birdie, which is pretty good. And then the clandestine area 51, which is parked for a birdie. I've played hole 15 a number of ways. Lately I've been liking a backhand mid-range down the right gap, but I used to forehand on the left side. There's also the sneaky like overturn backhand on the left side. So right side, backhand, mid-range, hyzer towards this group of trees, hope it gets lucky. You can go straight up the gut on a backhand, but it's a low percentage shot. Forehand, either on this like kind of middle gap here or somewhere on either side of this tree works, or a backhand turnover. There are options. I think the most comfortable play is a backhand hyzer with something overstable. I'm gonna throw an M2. And I'm just gonna see about getting through those trees. But we're gonna try a few things. Left it out a little early. I got a little lucky, but it worked. Backhand turnover. I hate this. I don't like this at all. We'll do it. got down there. It's just really far. I think my recommendation is still go with what's comfortable. That Anheuser backhand down the left side gap is just not comfortable. The M2 I didn't hit my line, and I think I hit a tree at the end of its flight, but this is honestly a fine spot to be in. Basket's just right there. It's just like, you know, little boop, little boop, and you're right there. So that totally works out. And then the Sapphire's pin high, and the trash that's on the ground shouldn't be on the ground. Someone had a snack and didn't clean up after themselves. TL3 is long. If I had hit that gap with the Mako 3, it might have been a little bit better. Sorry, I call this a TL3. It's just a TL. It's a 7.5 -1.1. Totally fine with the par, and the forehand Sapphire is birdie, I think. Right? Yeah, it's just right there. Pretty good. Pretty good. Hole 16 can be a little scary, mostly because of left side. There's no out of bounds, but going into the left side is just, it's just disastrous. So what I like to do is something overstable on the right hand side, backhand, and let it go all the way that way, and then just fade down the hill. The other option is to go straight through this kind of middle line here, because the basket's all the way at the bottom of the hill this way. But it can be a little tricky on this middle gap, because if you hit trees, then you're maybe bouncing left or maybe bouncing up the hill. A little low. And the bushes a little bit. Let's try that again. Exactly what you want. Other option, Mamba, straight-ish. Not what I intended, but honestly that's fine. Mamba is also pretty good. Yes, the Scorch. This is probably the one that had the least amount of luck and the most amount of skill, and that is just about where you want to be. Come on. Did you expect me to get a birdie on that? Because I didn't. Hole 17 is a par 4. I like something on a hyzer flip. Really, really close to this first tree. Just basically skimming it. Scorch, which honestly is pretty close for maybe an outside chance at an eagle. I'm outside C2, but it's possible. Oh, man. Just tickled the chains. That's going to be a little too hyzery. Also a little too hyzery. Let's get in. Oh, so close. I could probably stand here, run and grab putters, do that over and over again, and at some point I'll probably land it in for an eagle. But man, this is the move. This or the Mamba, if I throw it right. There are maybe 3 options on hole 18. I like the backhand line this way, but there's also a backhand line this way and a forehand line this way. I'm gonna go with this way. We'll see what this does. This way is probably better. try the Mamba on that same line. We'll try a couple different options. Yep, that's pretty perfect. All right, let's try Flippy Insanity turnover backhand left side gap. Not bad, competitive with some trees there. Forehand, I'm just looking for placement, I'm not looking for distance. That is a bad placement. Another thing to keep in mind, hole 18, is you will likely be very tired. Unless you're very fit. Because so much hill. This entire hole is on a hill. The entire walk up is a big hill, and it's long. Scorch backhand is the play, but I just didn't give it enough juice. I hit this tree and stopped here. This was the turnover backhand. Hit a tree and stopped. At Hollows North, one thing you have to be mindful of is that you're probably gonna hit a lot of trees. So get used to it. Get very used to it. The Mamba got up pretty far. It just got a little unlucky with its placement to the left, but honestly this is fine. A couple different options from here. Flex forehand something like the Watt. And just like touch. Just barely even any power. Almost no power at all is one option. And that is perfect. Got a little help from the tree, but that's okay. The other option is a sneaky backhand through this gap. I like that option a lot less. I just brought into play the entire hill that's on the right side of that basket. Yeah. Perfect. I say perfect. I still might be down the other side of that hill, but that's okay, because that first touchy little forehand was perfect. It sat, that pars this hole and brings this course to a close. Look at this, very nice. That is par, and if I had somehow hit and rolled, I'm not going that far. I'm landing like right here. That's still way within 20 feet. This forehand, I got a little lucky that I didn't go down that far, but it's also fine. The backhand, the sneaky backhand. This is what you should be afraid of. Is bringing in this hill. This hill off the side is just, it's just disastrous. And now I have the worst putt for a par. Just the worst putt for a par. Not easy at all. So I always recommend playing to the left side of this basket when you can. Now that we finished the course, if we played perfectly, we would be at 10 under. 10 under is an amazing score. That's probably closer to like MA1 or even maybe some of the pro divisions at this course. I need to see what the rating is to see how close it is to the MPO division. But we're not gonna play perfectly. If we play half as good as that, it's still very, very good. So let me know if this helped you out, if you ever play Hollows North. And check out some of the other videos. I do disc reviews, the Bagger Banner series, and hope to see you all next time. Bye.